What did Dr. King have to say about Friedrich Nietzsche?
This misinterpretation that caused the philosopher Nietzsche.
We are talking about this because in the last video, we were discussing the philosophy of Donald Trump, particularly his sense of nihilism and dominance. Our conclusion in Trumpian relativism is that dominance is realer than truth and that history is written by the victors. This way of thinking invokes a lot of things that culturally associates with Nietzsche. Many of you asked that I explain what his critique was. A simple way to explain it is dominance versus compassion, or power versus love. If we keep thinking in these terms, we might fall into the trap of thinking that love is associated with weakness and that strength is associated with power, as if one cannot use strength in order to love better. The problem with characterizing it this way is that love and power are not necessarily opposites. As he says, one of the great problems of history is that the concepts of love and power have usually been contrasted as opposites, polar opposites, so that love is identified with a resignation of power and power with a denial of love. It was this misinterpretation that caused the philosopher Nietzsche. We'll get to that in a second. This way of thinking is an oversimplification. It's just a simple equation that love is good and power is bad, and that is too, as he might say later, sentimental and anemic way to reason.
Now, a lot of us are preachers, and all of us have our moral convictions and concerns, and so often we have problems with power. There is nothing wrong with power if power is used correctly.
So, when King says that Nietzsche is a philosopher of the will to power,
Philosopher of the will to power,
that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that he says, that everything that Nietzsche says is somehow automatically wrong. Now, don't get it twisted. Does that mean that Dr. King would agree with everything that Nietzsche says? No, there's like a lot of reasons, notably because there is some form of toxic dominance, power as power over others in Nietzsche's philosophy. Scholars disagree on just exactly how bad that is. I'm not a scholar of Nietzsche, and so I don't want to talk about things that I don't have full intellectual control over. I think I have given enough context. Let's just listen to a whole quote. Enjoy.
And one of the great problems of history is that the concepts of love and power have usually been contrasted as opposites, polar opposites, so that love is identified with a resignation of power and power with a denial of love. It was this misinterpretation that caused the philosopher Nietzsche, who was the philosopher of the will to power, to reject the Christian concept of love. It was the same misinterpretation which induced Christian theologians to reject Nietzsche's philosophy of the will to power in the name of the Christian idea of love. Now, we got to get this thing right. What is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic.
Couple of closing thoughts. One, we didn't talk much about nihilism, and that's just time constraints, but I would offer, if you're interested, an alternative to the concept of will to power coming from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Another is this. Finally, this speech, Where Do We Go From Here, is one of the speeches where King talks about the concept of universal basic income, something that we seem to forget that he explains. One of his critiques of capitalism is also in this speech, and I'm tempted to say, just out of force of habit, pester me in the comments if you want me to tell you more about it, but I would challenge you. I can only read so many books, and I can only explain so many things. I was a teacher before I started making videos, and you can read some of these things yourself. A lot of these speeches are on YouTube if you want to listen to them. Challenge accepted. I just mean that active learning is always going to be better than passive learning. Just start with this one if you want. It's in my reading list. Thank you to all the patrons, viewers, likes, commenters, sharers, and everything else. I'll see you in the next one, or go back and watch the one on Trumpian relativism, a word that I just made up. Okay, bye.